All right, y'all. Hello. I hope you're doing good. I'm going crazy right now because I have just recorded this video 2 times, and both times it did not work. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. And I think we're going to do it well. So let's try it out. So today you're going to need your Chromebook, which is not a Chromebook, it's an iPad. I will get that right one of these days, I promise, but not today. Notebook and a pencil are also needed. Now, all of the things you're about to see, I will put a rectangle around what you need in your notes, okay? And there's going to be a lot of rectangles, but there's not a ton of like writing. It's a lot more just making of graphs, which is our title, and that needs to be in your notes, right? So look for the orange rectangle when you're looking for things in your notes. And then you need the objective as well. So I guess you don't really need, what you need is objective. And then you need this. You don't need to put, please write these down. All right. So please put this in your notes. I'll give you a second to pause and copy this down. Great. So you should have written down the objective. It's only one today, not two. I will be able to identify what a coordinate represents in a graph. And so it is kind of two, the and. I will be able to identify the unit rate of a relationship based on a graph or connected to a graph by completing an online assignment and taking notes. Now, this online assignment, you might be like, oh no, not an online assignment. We're doing that right now. You're doing it. Congrats. So you're already doing what you're supposed to. And then taking notes, orange boxes, ladies and gentlemen, orange boxes. All right, let's get to it. We're going to speed run this. So it's really important to know that math is connected to a story, right? Graphs tell us a lot of things. There's a English or like an old phrase, picture is worth 1,000 words. I think that graphs can be worth even more than that sometimes because of the information they're able to relay to you. Sometimes they're simple, sometimes there's so much more that is there, right? Now, the way we can start to like interpret a graph, there's two things. And if you can tell me what these two things are, then you're like 60% of the way there. And that is what's the x axis measuring and what is the y axis measuring. All right. Now, notice there's no rectangle. You're lucky this time. You don't need to write these down. So we need to find out what the x axis and y axis are measuring. We need to know if a graph is proportional. And there's two ways, two like checks that we need to check off to see if it's proportional. So you should know those. And we need to know if a graph is proportional, what is the unit rate of the relationship? Now, the unit rate is directly connected to this graph, right? It's only for proportional relationships and only for graphs that are proportional. But when you are in a proportional relationship here, when the graph is showing a proportional relationship, how many times can I say that sentence? My goodness. You need to know the unit rate. And we're going to talk about the unit rate and identifying the location of the unit rate on each of the following graphs. There's going to be 6 examples, and you're going to have to write a lot. Okay, cool. And I found out you can do fireworks with this recording tool whenever you click. So whenever we change slides, you'll see my little, yay, fireworks. Now, here's our first example. I'm going to do this one with you. I'm going to do the second one with you. And 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all you. Okay. So let's do it. Now, we need to find out what is the x-axis measuring. Ladies and gentlemen, the x-axis will be in blue. Psych, gotcha. And the y-axis will be in green. All right. So here, what is the x-axis measuring? Well, I just underlined it. X-axis is measuring hours. Now, I could spend time writing this in cursive because it's easier to write in cursive on your computer, but I'm not going to force you to see that. Instead, I'm just going to circle it and draw a line connecting the two. Okay, so you don't have to see my ugly mouse cursor. Wish I had a tablet. That would be so cool. Like to have one of those drawing tablets one of these days. So, oops, what am I doing? I'm making mistakes everywhere. That's what I'm doing. Hours is directly connected to the x-axis. And miles walked is directly connected to the y-axis. Great. Time and distance are two very common things. And I've said it before, but time is almost always in that x-axis. And distance really often is in that y-axis as well. On occasion, it can be in the x-axis, but whenever there's time, it's going to be on the x-axis. Now, is this graph proportional? This is the next thing we need to find out once we found our two axes. That is the plural for axis, is axes. So let's see, what is this graph proportional? Let's try it out. Well, wait, we know this. What are the two things that determine whether a graph is proportional? What two things need to be happening? Write that down in the Edpuzzle right now. Great. So you should have said that the two things were, one, that it is linear. Oh, y'all are gonna, I forgot to do something here. We'll talk about this in a second, but it has to be linear. You're gonna have to put all this in your notes, y'all. I'm just gonna say it right now. Oh, I know. I saw someone just get frustrated in class. I know. I'm sorry. It has to be linear, and it has to be going through the origin. Now, linear has this word line in it, right? It means it is a straight line. And then going through the origin. The origin is the O, the double O, actually, because that is the point 0, 0. So if you put linear or straight line, that's great. And if you put origin or goes through 0, 0, that's also great. Both are good. Linear and origin are the best because they're the fancy math words for it. And we like fancy math words. Now, let's do this final thing. If the graph is proportional, pardon me, I forgot. Is this proportional? It's linear. It goes through the origin, so it is proportional. Okay. And I'm just going to put prop because that stands for proportional today. And I don't want to write it all out with my mouse. No fun. So, proportional. If the graph is proportional, what is the unit rate? We're in this final part. If the graph is proportional, what is the unit rate? This part can get a little tricky. We need to use our y over x. And specifically, the graph is great because it tells us when x is 1, what our unit rate is. So here, when x is 1, what is my y value? Oh, when x is 1, y is 2. That's it. Y over x. My y value is 2. My x value is 1. So 2, now it says include your units. So 2 miles walked per 1 hour. So we're going to write that out. And I'm going to write it all out, so you have to write it all out too. 2 miles walked. I'm focusing so hard right now. This is so hard to do this. I used to be so good at it, but not anymore. 2 miles walked per, move this picture of my face here, per 1 hour. I actually might keep my face up there just for convenience. Great. All right, 2 miles walked per hour. Thumbs up. We got it. And the same thing, you could also just write 2 miles per hour. Get rid of the 1. That's actually better, 2 miles per hour. So go ahead and put that in your Edpuzzle right now. And I already said it, but I'll give you this time while you're doing that to also put this in your notes. I know. But hear me out. You don't need to draw the arrows. You just put hours in here. I just pointed with my actual finger on my screen. Cringe. You put hours here, and then you're going to put miles walked here. And then what I do want you to do is the simpler version of graphing. So instead of just putting the whole graph, that's crazy. Oh, you can learn to draw a straight line, Mr. V. Come on. You could put line here, arrow, arrow, X, Y, and then you're going to put hours. And if you want, you can shorthand that. Hours, HRS. and miles walked. Now you could put this sideways if you're feeling fancy, but you don't have to. I'm not going to because my brain would not be able to comprehend that. Miles. Oh my goodness! Please do this better than me. Okay. Again, please do it so that it's not going into your graph. Don't. It's this. You can't blame me. Then you draw your little graph and you label your points on it. You only need to label 2 points. I'm not going to make you label all 5. Find 2 points on the graph. One of them should be the unit rate. So here we have, that's supposed to, we're going to make that a 1, 1, comma 2. Definitely was going to put 2, comma 1 because I have my brain backwards. And then I'm going to choose to do just the next point up right here, which is 2, comma 4. Great. You should be able to write this a lot faster in your notes because you're not using a mouse. So this should be the basic premise of what you have for each of your graphs. X-axis, y-axis, x-axis this way, y-axis this way. And then the x-axis measurement, hours, y-axis measurement, hours, miles walked. And then your little graph that goes like this, and then your 2 points. One of them is the unit rate. It's a lot, I know. We have 6 examples. There's time in class to work on this and time at home to work on this. So you're going to be fine, I promise. Great. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to give a little spot for questions right now. If you're in person, you can ask me. If not, I'll leave a little Edpuzzle option here as well. And actually, just go ahead and type it in anyway if you're in person. Just question. And don't make questions, I don't know how to do this. Say, I'm confused by part A, part B, part C, part D. I'm confused when you find the unit rate. I need specifics because that helps me help you. That's my job, right? So, great. Let's do it here. We're going to clear. You should have everything in on Edpuzzle, and we're going to move to the next one. Now, you're going to need to write this whole thing down every time, y'all. So, theme park costs. You're going to like me on this one, though, because there's a little bit less. What is the x-axis measuring? Now, I'm going to tell you this. You should know this by now. X-axis is blue, right? Our x-axis is the number of tickets, and our y-axis is the cost. That's simple, y'all. So let's go ahead and go back, draw my little pen connectors here. The x-axis is the number of tickets. The y-axis is the cost in dollars. Great. That's simple. Plug those in right now. And now we're going to go ahead and look at, is this graph proportional? There's 2 things. Do you think it's proportional? Yes or no? Some of you already are like screaming the answer at me, but is it proportional? It is not. It's not proportional. Now, the reason it's not proportional is because it doesn't go through the origin, right? So right here, we should see a point right here. I'll do this in pink because that's what color theirs are. There's no point right there. The y-intercept is the fancy term for that, is right there. That's not the origin. Not good. Ooh, that was supposed to be in red. We'll double cross it out. Not good. Not proportional. So you can just put not proportional. And for a reason why not, I'm going to say this. It doesn't go through the origin. That's what you're going to put for why not. Does not go through the origin. Great. So that's good. We're going to do part D now. Oh, if the graph is proportional. Was the graph proportional? We don't have to do part D. That's nice, right? So all you have to do now is draw your little graph like you had before. Draw your graph, preferably a little bit better than that. Label your x-axis and your y-axis, and then draw the line. So here it's going to be like this. And give me 2 points here. They don't have to be the unit rate here because there's no unit rate. And you're done. Okay, nice and simple. And if you could label your x and y, that'd be great too. This is x, this is y, ta-da. Oh, and I know that some of you like to use colors in your like note taking. Shout outs to, I think Ruby has awesome colors in her notes. A bunch of you do, but she's the first person that came to my mind. Um, please feel free to do that. I love seeing color in notes. It helps me out. It helps you out. It's great. Love that. That's why I have all these colors too. Great. Let's go ahead and move on now. I'm not going to do as much here. In fact, I'm not going to do much of anything. But your job is to answer all four of these questions, or I guess three if it's not proportional. And I'm going to come back in on example 6. I'll just be like up here watching you, making sure you do the right thing. But mainly, we're going to be paused while you're answering these questions. Okay. So let's get to it. Clear out this whole section. Fireworks. Example 3. Go ahead and answer. What is the x-axis measuring? What is the y-axis measuring? Oh, and we'll get to that once you're done answering this. But you also have to identify these points. We'll talk about it. Great. So you should have answered all four of these. This is a proportional relationship. And what I want for you to do is to tell me, I want you to tell me what point C represents. Now, what this means is well, you know what? I'll do point C for us, and then I want you to do point D, or point B, pardon me. Okay. Now, point C tells me I have a certain x value and a certain y value. My x value, or my y value, is 140, and my x value is 4, right? So this means that I drive 140 miles. I'm assuming you're driving, unless you're using gasoline as like what you're drinking, which you shouldn't. Never drink gasoline, kids. I hope you're not. Please don't drink. Bad idea. This is a car. We're going to say it's a car. 140 miles in 4 gallons of gas. It's definitely a car. That's great gas mileage. I need to find out what this car is. That's what you would put. 140 miles per 4 gallons of gas. Each of these coordinates represents a per sentence, right? So here it's 140 and 4. At point B, I want you to tell me what you think it is. Great. So you should have had per 2 gallons of gas. And this number isn't here, but it's actually 70. Okay. Great. And make sure to put this in your notes. Ha 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 ha. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. Example 4. Now, this is going to be the last one that you put in your notes, I think. You know what? You don't need this in your notes. You did 3 of them already. We're good. I might have you put 5 or 6, but not this one. Go ahead and work on it. And then I want you to tell me, what does this point mean right here? What does this point mean? Now, this is a really tricky question. Some of you might be looking at part D and going, okay, the unit rate's the tricky question, not point D. I think point D is pretty simple. But just draw your lines, y'all. Draw the connections. The graph is proportional, but it's not points per field goal. It's field goals per point. So that's actually not, we need to find when x is 1, which is going to be right here. Oh, that's like right. Oh, that's really tricky. I'm going to tell you right now, this is 1/3 of a point per field goal, which is really weird. Pardon me, 1/3 of a field goal per point. So 1/3 per 1 point. It was a mistake. This was supposed to be points this way, field goals this way, but oopsie. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Fireworks. All right. Good. I'm hoping you got this. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sorry in advance. I might not have even given the time yet because I paused like mentally to give you that break, but I'm going to give you the Edpuzzle after this. This is a really weird graph, and I need you to look at the points that I'm going to box here in red. You don't need to draw this one, but like what happens here and what happens like here and what happens. There's another one that's like decent. That's a bit easier to see, but is this a straight line? That's what I'm going to ask you. Is this a straight line? These are my two little locations here. I'll erase them so you can see them a bit better, but is this a straight line? All right, so you answered those questions. It's not, which means that there's no unit rate. This is a like directly taken from the like data set take that Durham had for the rainfall from 2021. So it shows you that in total we reached 38 inches over the course of all 12 months, right around that 39, almost 38 and a half. And it happened, but not exactly the same amount every month. We didn't have, if it were, we'll say it's 36 just because I want an easy number. If it were 36 inches, then we didn't have exactly 3 inches per month. We had less than 3 inches in the first 2 months per month because that's like at 5 inches after 2 months. That's less. But then we get a lot in the middle of the year, which is during the summer, which is when we get most rain, right? So like months 6 through 9 are especially rainy, and that's June, July, and August. So 6, 7, and 8, pardon me. So it's just an interesting thing to note. It's kind of cool that we can see this data and how it works for us. I know this is subtle, but we'll get to a less subtle one next. All right. This is an easy one, ladies and gentlemen. I'll let you know that this and this are our axes. They're just not how you'd normally see them. Go ahead and answer these questions. This is obviously not proportional, right? There's no way that this line is even close to straight. First off, it doesn't start at the origin. That's barely, but it doesn't. And then that would be a straight-ish line. It's less straight than the last one, and that wasn't even a proportional relationship. So obviously not a proportional relationship. So we don't need to find the unit rate, but I think this is really cool. And in fact, one of the things we're going to do with this is still analyze some of this data. So I want you to tell me right here what this point, I'm going to do it in orange. I'll do it in green since there's some orange to the right there. What does this point in green tell me? Great. So I'm hoping that you got there were 2 million people in the year 1900. That is what you should have had. That's what it was. In 1900, there were about 2 million people that lived in North Carolina. That's like a perfect answer. There were 2 million people in 1900 who lived in North Carolina. Great. What about this one right here? Okay, so similar. You should have had that in 1980. There were about 6 million people that lived in North Carolina. Great. Now, this one's tricky. And I know this is not accurate, but we're going to say this point right here. I want to see what you all have to say. It's not exactly 12 million, but what's this say? I want you to note the year and think about what year we are in. And if you actually used your eyes here, you'd see that we have this is projected growth, right? Projected growth. So this was made in 2010. We don't know the population of North Carolina in 2030. We do now in 2020, and it actually, I think, tapered down a little bit. It's still going up, but I think it went a bit more like that than, or well, we haven't gotten to here yet, but it's a bit more like that right now, where it's not gone up as much in the last couple of years, probably because of COVID, but still definitely going up more than most states even. Anyway, what matters here is that this didn't happen yet. 2030 is in the future. We expect this many in 2030. We expect 12 million people to be living in North Carolina by the year 2030. Kind of cool. Shows you some real world relevance, shows us how our state is growing at a large rate. There are a lot of states that aren't growing, but most are because there's just more people being born than there are people dying. So really interesting thing to look at. And you see how many people have moved or been born in North Carolina at a huge rate, right? The population of North Carolina has grown drastically. So anyway, with that said, y'all are done. Thank you so much for working hard on this. If you have any questions, I'm going to leave a question section right here somewhere. I don't know how Edpuzzle works. I haven't used it in a long time. So you'll be able to see an Edpuzzle like question thing. If you don't have any questions, just say no. Thanks, y'all. Great work. Have a good rest of your